On one house, I got a Rolls Royce, a Ford Thunderbird, a boat, a whole bunch of furniture, paintings, some gym equipment, and a hot tub.
How come I've never seen this Rolls Royce, Jeff? Hey everyone, and welcome to the Creative Financing Podcast. I'm Nicole Kamanjian. I'm here with Cody Richard and the host of this show, Jeff Rappaport. This is episode 260, and today we're doing part 2 of how to fill out a purchase and sale agreement with seller finance. Before we get started, I wanted to mention some of our resources. If you're looking for a mentor, visit roimentors.com to learn more about Jeff's apprentice program and the Creative Financing Academy. For networking and questions, make sure you join the Creative Financing Podcast community in Facebook. The second Thursday of every month, don't miss Jeff's free creative financing class on Zoom. If you're local to the Salt Lake area, we host an in-person meetup at Club 90 in Sandy, Utah. Details in the description below.
All right, here we go. We're on part 2 on how to fill out a purchase and sale agreement with owner financing. And we just got through the hardest part, at least to me, the hardest part with the purchase and sale agreement. The addendum becomes a little more detailed, but the rest of the purchase and sale is super easy. So let's go through it. So we covered in the first episode, we went through buyer and seller, the legal description, address, how to fill out this number 1, how to fill out owner finance portion, and how to deal with closing costs. So we are on number 5, payment of expenses. Then we're going to do prorations, title evidence, and survey. So let's switch back to our PowerPoint. So here's how hard this becomes. Okay. So number 5 and number 6, payment of expenses and prorations. Nothing to fill out. Okay, move on. Number 7, title evidence. Okay, this is when the buyer and seller agrees to get a preliminary title report on the property. And if you go back,
title report is definitely a really important document to get.
Yeah. So title evidence, can you guys see this?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay. So within 7 days, 10 days. It used to be pretty quick, but title companies are really slow these days. So we're usually putting like 10 days now, and it's usually 10 days after acceptance, but you could do after a certain things are satisfied. And here's one thing to know with title insurance, which is something kind of interesting to me, is that we have a property in we're going through the same title company on 2 different deals. One's in Oklahoma, one's in Texas. In Oklahoma, they said it is the buyer's responsibility to order the PR, the preliminary title report, and we will be billed for it if we don't buy. And in Texas, it is the seller's responsibility, and they will pull it, and no one is responsible for paying if there's no sale. So understand the market that you're in and what will happen. Normally we tell title, but we don't want them to pull title until we've gone through at least the financials and know that we want to continue to pursue the property. All right, number 7 is survey. Very rarely do we check that we need to get a survey. If anything, we usually ask to see if there is one that's been previously done. If you were dealing with a larger tract of land and maybe the boundaries were not 100%, then you may want to do a survey. Or if you were dealing with commercial, but most residential stuff, you're not going to check this. But if you were, you can decide who's going to pay for it. Otherwise, there's no survey is required, and who's going to pay for it and who's going to be responsible, and you just fill in these blanks. Okay, number 9, wood destroying organism report, termites. Nothing to fill out, so don't worry about it. Number 10, title examination and time for closing. So this is where we're going to create our closing time frame. So what I like to do normally is I check this box right here, and I'll put like 21 days to 30 days to 45 days after the date of acceptance. So for me, that's what I normally do is I base my time frame on when they sign the agreement. But you can put an actual date if you want. Wouldn't be a bad idea because sometimes people don't quite know. That's why I do date after acceptance, because I can just go back to the purchase and sale agreement and see when the last date was on there, and now know exactly, when is closing set for. How do you deal with that, Cody?
So I felt the same. And yeah, just to highlight, this is a very important section, but I do put whatever X amount of days after the date of acceptance. And then I'll track it all on my calendar and just put, hey,
Yeah.
I've got 7 days until due diligence ends, 7 days until closing occurs, just so I can stay on top of it as it comes up.
Yep.
When you guys are filling in the days, and this might be a stupid question, but like, do the weekends count in those days that you're?
If they don't say business days, then yes.
Okay.
If it's business days, then no. So
So
I
you have to
normally don't
specify?
do business days.
Okay.
So yeah, if today is the 22nd of February, so if I was signing this today, and maybe I'm saying 30 days from today we will close, if my buyer or my seller, whatever the case may be, has also signed. If they sign tomorrow, then it starts tomorrow.
Got it.
Okay. Number 11, loss or damage. You can read through this, but there's nothing to sign. Number 12 and 13 and 14. Let's switch back. So we're going to deal with in the kind of condition that the property is going to be delivered in. And are there any descriptions of problems? Occupancy, whether someone's occupying the property or not. And then any kind of personal property that may or may not be included with the sale. All right. So condition, you can put what you want in this section. This is what I always put. As is, no warranties express or implied. Do you do the same, Cody?
Yeah, it's almost like I
wonder
got it
where
from
you
you
got
or
that
something.
You don't have to. You could put whatever you need in there, but we're not trying to hold up the property based on a condition, and we're going to create in our addendum a due diligence period, and we can get out of this deal for any reason during the due diligence period. Occupancy.
And I've noticed I also don't get pushback for having that in the condition. Some people may ask like, "Oh, why are you doing an inspection then?" But that's the only thing, and no one ever is backed out because of what is written in the condition section.
I've never had an issue with it either. And this would be as we being the buyers, right?
Yep.
We're just saying basically, we're not looking for any kind of warranties, guarantees, condition. If we're buying a fixer upper, we're going to go do our due diligence, make sure that we know what we're buying. And I've never had pushback even after if I'd gotten an inspection or after seeing it and had some issues with the condition that we basically say, because you can still get out of this agreement based on the due diligence. So, all right. So occupancy, you're just going to check the appropriate box. If seller's going to occupy the property after closing, I will put in C addendum at the end of it. And one of the things you definitely want to do is cover yourself if the seller is going to stay in the property after closing. And when I say that, I will put in some kind of clause in the addendum that says, I'm going to hold back a certain amount of proceeds from the seller until the seller has left the property and has left it in reasonably clean condition. And I'll usually have a date, and then they'll start losing, it'll cost them a significant amount of money for every day that they're in there. And then after like a week, they forfeit all the money, and now it becomes an eviction.
Have you ever had to deal
So
with
just an
eviction?
example.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Jeff.
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jeff.
The example, yes, I have. I have not actually had to evict, and I think it just becomes something that you negotiate at that point. I've had a few people that stayed after closing and after the time frame that they were supposed to be in, and I just made them a deal that, hey, I'll give you back like half the money if you're out by 2 days from now and the property is left in good condition. Usually I can work something out. I've never had to go the whole eviction route. Once was close, but not quite. Did you have an example too, Cody?
I was just gonna, yeah, I've had it happen. I was gonna say give a rough estimate on the numbers. Like sometimes I've done hold back 5,000 or
Yeah.
10,000 or maybe more depending on the value of the property, and then charge like 500 a day for any day
I'm
that
going to
they're
try
not
to hold
out,
back
or
as much
more or
as
less than that.
possible, but sometimes they're not getting that much money. So
Yeah,
if they were getting $5,000, I can't really hold back all $5,000. So I might be able to get 2,500 of the five. If they were getting 100,000, I might hold back $15,000 because I want it to hurt. That's the incentive to leave and leave it in good condition. And if we're buying it on with hard money or something, that hey, the clock ticks after we've closed, right? It's accumulating, and can't wait until the seller gets his or her act together to get out of the property.
yeah.
So again, in the addendum, this would be all spelled out how you want this to occur. And then the other occupancy is that buyer understands the property is available for rent or rented, and the tenant may continue in possession following closing unless otherwise agreed to in writing. Make sure you check the occupancy.
What if you're wholesaling the deal? Does that come later in the contract, or is that like the occupancy? Does that have to do anything with it?
You will want to still deal with it because you've got to pass that portion on to your buyer as well. So if you're selling to a landlord and the landlord wants to get rid of this tenant and put in a new tenant that's going to pay market rents, then yeah, super important to know when they're going to be out or how long their lease is, because there's certain things that you have to abide by, and there's no real way around it unless you work out some kind of deal separately with the tenant. Sometimes they want the tenant in there. They're paying rent, that income will continue. So and then you have to, if you are going to wholesale this, then you have to make sure that, hey, I put this into place. I just wanted you to know so that it protects you as well.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like Jeff said, just know your exit strategy, know your numbers of, hey, this could rent for 2,000 a month. It's currently rented at 750. I mean, if I'm trying to wholesale this, it just wouldn't make sense to leave the tenant in there unless there's maybe a few scenarios, but most likely you wouldn't be able to leave them in there. So just know your exit strategy and what you're going to be looking to sell it at as a wholesale.
Well, and certainly also know what lease, what are the terms of the lease, because even though that you had nothing to do with it, you have to abide by it. If they've got 6 more months on the lease, then you've got to deal with them for 6 more months.
Yeah, and it could be a month lease too.
That's correct. All right. So we have now gotten through number 13, occupancy. So we're going to now go through personal property, default, zoning, the time frame when they can accept, and the addendum. And we'll probably just go through it all. So We'll speed this up and get through this all, and then we'll wrap up this episode. So, all right. So personal property, list any property that will be included or excluded from the sale. So if the seller says, I want to take the washer and dryer, or I'm going to leave the washer and dryer, you want that in there. Cody, have you ever gotten any cool items from a house just because you asked for it?
I have not. No, have you?
Oh, yes.
Sounds like you might have.
On one house, I got a Rolls Royce, a Ford Thunderbird, a boat, a whole bunch of furniture, paintings, some gym equipment, and a hot tub.
How come I've never
Oh,
seen
wow.
this Rolls Royce, Jeff?
I sold it.
Oh,
I sold it all. And actually, I shouldn't have. When I did it, I thought it was just pretty cool, but then I had to deal with it all and I didn't know what to do with it. So, but I used to get stuff all the time when I was doing stuff more where I would go to the house and go on the appointment, and you'd see the riding lawnmower in the back or the cool something or other, and you're like, hey, what are you going to do with that? I've got all kinds of furniture. I have 2 display cases in my garage that have been sitting there for like 10 years that I got from a house. So, yeah. Okay, so default, there's nothing to fill out. Zoning, you're going to fill in 2 blanks. You can use words and abbreviations like SFR, single family residence, and residential. So it would go, you check zoning and restrictions. Unless the property is zoned, you could put residential here and can be legally used for single family residence use, or you could put his own single family residence and be legally used for residential use. It doesn't really matter. That's not 100%. You could use commercial, multifamily. Just make it clear so that if there are any zoning and restriction issues that you have pointed out what they need to be. Number 17, so when you submit this, you can give a time frame when this offer expires. That way, it's not sitting out there for weeks at a time. Make sure that you put a time zone. Otherwise, it'll get confusing, and you may not care when someone signs, or you may care when someone signs. So,
how long do you typically give them, Jeff?
I don't usually fill it out.
Oh.
Maybe we should. We probably should. That maybe we would get rid of some of the people that take their time and then kind of disappear and ghost you. So, do you fill it out, Cody?
No, I don't, but the same thing, probably should.
Yeah, probably should.
And I will say one thing.
Yeah.
One thing on zoning is I also get this just from the county website. Just
good.
whatever county it is, and then tax assessor.
Yep.
On those pages, you can usually see what it's zoned for.
Yeah, and it's right here. So you check this. Unless the property is zoned blank and can be legally used for blank use. So yeah, you can get it off the county recorder. I just never fill this out anymore. Muhammad does it. So I don't know where he gets everything, but I see it and I say, okay, good. And I just electronically sign. All right, so we are just about done. And I told you it's pretty simple. So number 18 is additional terms. I used to write out all this stuff in there. Now I don't write anything except see addendum. 19, there's nothing to fill out. Number 20, seller agrees to allow buyer to place a notice of interest on the property until closing. This will protect buyer's position in the property. If buyer does not buy the property, then buyer will remove the notice of interest at buyer's expense. I added that. That's a modification to the purchase and sale agreement. And what it does is just allow me to cloud the title if for whatever reason I feel like the seller is trying to work a second deal or shop my deal while they're under contract with me. Make it difficult for them to sell the property without dealing with me first. And if you don't have that in your purchase and sale agreement and you go file a notice of interest or a memorandum, you could get yourself into some trouble.
Are we supposed to be seeing the contract or the slides, Jeff?
It doesn't really matter, but that's number 20 right here. Nothing to fill out. last thing, well, second to last thing, just put under what state law that you are dealing with. So if you're buying in Utah, Utah law, Florida, Indiana, Indiana. Okay. Make sure everyone signs, right? So if there were two sellers, make sure they both sign. Okay. Get their phone number and their social security number. That's it. That's the whole that you can get this last thing if you gave earnest money to the realtor, but you don't even need this. So
Do you ever have anyone fight you on giving their social?
no, and I don't really care if they give it to me or not.
Okay.
I don't get it. I removed that section from mine. So
Yeah.
I don't ever get it. And I haven't had an issue with not getting it.
Sometimes I get it, sometimes I don't, and I don't really care either way. So it's easier for title if they already have this stuff. So
Yeah.
I've had title companies come back and say that's your responsibility to get, and I'm like, all right, that's the only reason why it's there. Any questions? So we got through the whole purchase and sale agreement, 2 episodes. The next episode we will deal with the addendum, and the 4th episode we will just go through a couple examples filled out.
No questions for me.
Good.
Yeah, no questions.
All right. Well, then we'll see you next time. Go out and create some terms.